Pokémon Emergency! Highlights. Ash's Pikachu is suffering severe trauma from the many peaks of multiple Spearow and exhausted from saving both him and Ash. Well, we did it, Pikachu. What's wrong, buddy? Oh yeah, dying. Should probably stop walking dramatically and pick up the pace, huh? He then meets a policewoman who immediately accuses an injured child desperately carrying a critical animal of foul play. Not touching that one. No, I'm not a poacher. What kind of a 10-year-old poaches? Look, kid, we've got kindergartners assaulting trainers out here. Don't tell me. Can I please get a freaking lift to the hospital? Dying animal here. Oh, right, sorry. Freaking AJAB, man. To be fair, when this officer commits, she commits, delivering Ash and Pikachu through the door of the center via freaking Canada maneuvers. We have a driveway, you know. Sorry, thank you.
Ring, 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 phone call, phone call, ring, ring, ring,
Boy, that's gonna get old fast. Hi, Mom. Ash, how far away are you? Sorry, imagine I said that in a less bad way. Already done, Mom. You're the best. I'm in Viridian. Wow, that took your dad 4 days. At least he said it took him 4 days. Held up by a nurse's convention. I bet he's just so proud of you. You're the apple of his eye, you know. That's why he took all the photos of you and him with him when he left. Ah, did he take the ones of both of you as well? Yes. Look, let's never mention your father again, okay? Never ever. That's my boy. Suppressing uncomfortable emotions. Honey, you're growing up right before my eyes. Spreading your wings and soaring like a Spearow. Spearow! Where? Get him off me! Spearow! Get him off me! I love you, son. I believe in you. Jim, let me turn off the phone first. Huh, that mural looks cool. What the? Hi, Ash. Your smoking hot mother told me you just arrived in Viridian City. Is that true? I couldn't be talking to you if I wasn't here. You couldn't... Oh, I see. I dialed the Pokémon Center in Viridian City, and you were able to answer. Yeah, because that's where I am. I suppose that proves it. Professor, have you been taking your meds? What's my grandson's name again? Well, that sounds ominous. Indeed. Bye, Ash. Try not to be a loser. Hey, you? What happened to your bike? Well, at least I'm in a medical facility. Wait, Pikachu's in the ICU. Gasp. Is he okay? Yep, he's fine. Ish. It's relative. Oh, good. Can no one open a door in this town? To protect the plot from pace stagnation. To unite all fans in adulation. To denounce the evils of competent crime. To expand the show or to pad out time. Jesse. James. Team Rocket. Fan favorites at the speed of light. My voice sounds weird now, but soon they'll get it right. Meowth. I also have a different voice, but most of you didn't notice. Ignoring the talking animal for some reason. Quick, distract them while I teleport the Pokemon to a different center. Wow, that's a cool system. Sure hope that doesn't contradict future episodes. Hey, Pikachu, you up for a battle? Fine, I'll just use whatever's around. Go, you! Well, that was pathetic. Let me show you how a real trainer does it. Hey, how was that Pokemon any better than mine? At least mine could actually fight. I wanted to show you just how stupid you looked. Well, I must have looked pretty freaking stupid. Shut up and get the Pikachu out of here. All right. Then Pikachu gets Pika-piled by the backup generator, and then he's good as new. Pika power? Wait, the generator, of course. What is he doing? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna misinterpret it. We're blasting off for the first time. Wow, Pikachu, we're really good at killing pursuers. Well, at least that's the last we'll see of those clowns. Where's my money, you son of a... What? Thoughts? Man, there's a lot of stuff going on in this episode. Honestly, it feels like someone took 2 or even 3 episodes and just smushed them all together, and then just pounded at it until it was able to squeeze into the Play-Doh pot of standard runtime. If anything, it almost feels like a clip show, or more accurately, like an anthology of short episodes, a la 22 short films about Springfield, as the stories are all interconnected around a single main narrative of Ash getting his Pikachu out of critical condition. There are story points about Ash, of course, and his responsibilities as a Pokemon trainer, but there are also meaty tidbits dropped about Professor Oak, Ash's parents, Misty's bike, Jenny's bike, Jenny herself, Nurse Joy, Pikachu, the way the world of Pokemon works in general, and of course a top-tier contender for the most lovable villain team in anime, Team Rocket. If you think this sounds awesome and would be an amazingly bold structure to go with for the second freaking episode, you're right. It does sound awesome and would be an amazingly bold structure to go with for the second freaking episode. Too bad it wasn't able to follow through. Unfortunately, this thing's a hot mess, but it's not an irredeemable one, not by a long shot. Like, really think about that plot. This isn't a coherent narrative. The best plots can be summed up in one succinct sentence. Farm boy gets caught up in intergalactic war. Newspaper mogul goes from humble beginnings to opulent tragedy. Girl commits manslaughter, teams up with locals to kill again. Although the story does have a through line and ostensibly following Ash, although it stops doing that at a couple of points, it's just a bunch of events thrown together. It would be incredibly hard to sum up this episode in one sentence without leaving out a lot of other events that the plot seemed to find equally important. However, this is not a bad thing if these events serve a purpose in establishing a larger world and its inhabitants. Going back to the previously mentioned episode of The Simpsons, what made it brilliant was how it helped us understand where these seemingly inconsequential characters were coming from and where they fit into this established world. It made the lore seem richer, and I believe that if it's done well, that kind of episode could do extremely well early on in the series run to help us immerse ourselves in this fully functioning world. This episode, I believe, does not succeed in that, but it wasn't for lack of trying. There are some great world-building moments here, including ones where we're told how trainers and their Pokemon are registered with the government, how there's a subsidized medical care in place that's established and respected enough that veterinary offices are the size of stadiums. We learned that video phones are commonplace, remember this is the 90s, and although there are many futuristic aspects to this world, it's also well-worn and conservative in others. When's the last place you've seen a citywide PA system? There's also some intriguing character moments here too. I'm going to pull this from the trivia section, but did you know that this is the only time Ash's dad is ever mentioned? And it's in Viridian City too. Seriously though, Ash is given even more to live up to here, and he has it hammered into him even more that he is very much not any kind of prodigy or even mediocre. He's well behind, and at least right now, he has someone to follow in his dad. This gives us great insight into his character and why he's so belligerent and bullheaded. He's trying to jump ahead. It helps that the voice acting on him is amazing. Obviously I can't show you examples, but if you'd watch the episode, it's hard to remember sometimes due to it being a kid's show and therefore a melodramatic reading is called for. But Veronica Taylor does an incredible job of showing the internal conflict in Ash's conversation with his mum. It's even more impressive when you consider that Ash and his mum are voiced by the same person. This actually leads me to our true introduction to Misty, who we saw cared about Pokemon a great deal in the last episode, but gets a lot more character thrown in here. When she switches from bloodlust to genuine concern in a split second, in lesser hands that could be unrealistic or even comical, but Rachel Lillis delivers it just right, even if I don't. 4Kids may have had some horrible practices, but if there's one thing that they always got right, it was getting the good voice actors. Which makes it all the more infuriating when that talent gets given just bizarrely pointless scenes like when Misty brings out Goldeen. The worst part is we find out later she has one of the most intimidating and unsettling Pokemon sitting right there in her bag, and it could fight out of water. I guess the writers hadn't decided on her team yet, which is really weird this far into the show. The worst offender is probably Team Rocket though. This is not the Team Rocket we know and love. They're almost completely distinct from their later characteristics, even allowing for different voices. They're dreadfully boring, having no sense of humor apart from that one zinger. The girl thinks she's pretty. I agree with her. I think she's pretty too. Pretty pathetic. And bizarrely, this means that the motto that all of us can recite from memory falls dreadfully flat. When they become their usual goofy selves later on, it makes sense that they're put on this kind of production because they're just so theatrical. But here, yeah, it just seems self-seriously cheesy in the worst way. Of course, I'm willing to give this all a pass because I know they'll become comedy gold and incredibly sympathetic later on, but imagine if you didn't know that. It's a very weak start for any kind of nemesis. I will say this though, because I don't know where else I'll get a chance to mention it, but Jessie's hair is just phenomenal. It's probably the example of something that looks great and even natural in an animated world, but looks ungodly hideous in real life. More so I think than any other anime hairdo, even Yugi. That deserves respect. Also, it makes her look like the R logo, and I didn't get that until I was in my 20s. Weird how that can happen. So yes, although there was a lot of infuriating things about this episode, for the positives I mentioned before, it's still not bad at all. It still did a great job of acclimatizing us further to the world these characters live in. It still does a great job of showing us that Ash has a lot to overcome and gives us more reasons to root for him, and it certainly never bugged me to the point of wanting to switch it off. I'd give it a great ball. Trivia. That mural on the wall in the Pokemon Center is interesting for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it has a hidden video phone behind it, Batman style. Seriously, what is up with that? Do all professors have an emergency hotline? And even then, why can't they use the regular phone? But also, it depicts the 3 legendary birds of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, and Arcanine? It's funny because in the game, Arcanine is known as the legendary Pokemon, even though it's not classed as such. There have been rumors that Arcanine was originally going to be a legendary in Red and Blue, and this certainly lends credence to that. I actually quite like the detail of how Ash mistakes Articuno for the Ho-Oh that he saw at the end of the last episode, and that it's vague enough that you can see how it'd make that mistake, and Oak could still comment on how rare it is. There was also a strange bit of localization occurring here, where 4Kids began the insidious practice of Americanizing food products. In the Japanese, Ash asks Professor Oak if he's cooking ramen noodles, which is what flusters him and causes him to change the camera. At the end, he also shouts that his ramen is burning rather than getting the pizza. Lastly, at one point in the Japanese version, Ash's mum says that a black hen lays a white egg and a sparrow lays a pidgey egg. This is a rather butchered version of a famous phrase that means that you're not meant to judge things by appearances because, you know, black hens lay white eggs, whatever. But it also means that in the early stages of the show, Pokémon did indeed live alongside regular animals, and this was just phased out, rather than being a boo-boo on the writers or animators' part. And so, Suede moves on from Viridian and onward towards Ash's first Pokémon gym, which is weird because Viridian City has a gym. You'd think they'd at least establish it was closed or something, but one thing's for certain, even in the road ahead, there are going to be plenty more things that bug him.